Are you insane at creative but you seem to struggle in-game, or maybe you just feel like you've been stuck at the same level for a long time? Well, then you come to the right place. Timestamps are down below, but we're going to jump into the main reason you guys are struggling in-game, and it's because real games are a lot laggier than creative, and that means that all of your builds and your edits are going to be slower. Now, the best way to fix this problem is to practice in creative on high ping, so that when you go and jump in-game, the difference is way less noticeable and you won't feel like you're playing a completely different game. So maybe 10 minutes before you jump into game, switch your region and just practice your free builds and aim so that once you get in game, you don't feel like an AI. Now for me, I live on the West Coast, so I play NA West. But when a tournament comes around, I have to play on Central. So before I play the tournament, I switch my region to Central and then warm up on high ping, so that I know what to expect when I get in a game. Another way you can get better in game is simply just by spending hours in ranked, because the more time you spend doing something, the better you're going to get at it. And creative may be good to hone your skills and your aim, but actually putting them to the test and hopping in ranked and using those skills is a whole different thing. Now that we've talked about lag, the next thing I want to talk about is dealing with third parties and uncomfortable situations. Because sometimes creative warriors will get in third parties and they will struggle to make the right decisions because they're not used to the hecticness of real games. Now, a good way to combat this is by having really good map knowledge. What I mean by that is knowing what areas on the map you should avoid and even knowing what directions you might get third partied from, so that if you get in a fight, you can block those angles so that you won't get shot in your back. But you're probably asking, what are some good places to fight and not get third partied? Well, that's usually going to be around the edges of the map. Since less people land there, that means that when you run into someone, you're a lot less likely to run into others while fighting. But even if you're on the edge of the map and fighting, I still recommend always blocking your back. Like in these fights here, I still block my back in other angles while I'm trying to go for walls or even just spraying at someone. Now, since we just covered third parties, the next thing we're going to talk about is how to actually improve at fighting. Now, in fighting, there's a few ways to practice. For example, 1v1s or realistics. Now, these drills are very good for improving your mechanics and free builds, but the best overall way to get better at fighting is simply just spending time in ranked. Because in ranked, you get all the practice of different types of fights, so you get off-spawn fights, mid-game fights, even fighting for the radio tower and loot island, and even endgame fights. Now you may say, oh, there's realistics, so you can just practice all this in creative. But in ranked, there's a huge difference. You only have one life. So that means once you die, you go straight back to the lobby. Instead of in creative, you get an infinite amount of chances to succeed. But in ranked, you only get one. Also, when you're fighting in ranked or even in creative, I want you guys to start focusing on doing damage while also not taking damage, because a lot of people will just force themselves into a 50-50 and die when they don't need to. So learning to make proper peaks and just overall how to play patient is super important. Not rushing into fights and just exposing yourselves is going to help you guys a lot. Also, when you're fighting, you need to learn how to have constant pressure while changing angles, so that the player you're fighting doesn't have time to think, and that means that they are a lot more likely to make a mistake that you can counter on. Also, a lot of people tend to miss easy shots when they're fighting, and the best way to counter that is to always track your opponent. And what I mean by that is, even if there's builds in between you and the opponent, make sure that you always have your crosshair placed on him, even when he's not editing, because let's say if he does edit, if your crosshair is placed on the player, you won't have to adjust your crosshair when he edits. And when you have to flick to your opponent, you take a few more milliseconds to place your crosshair on the player and then shoot. Also, when you flick, usually your shots are going to be a lot less accurate. With fighting out of the way, I want to talk about confidence, because in my opinion, out of all the tips I'm going to give today, this is the best way to transfer creative skill into ranked. Now, ranked or maybe even a cash cup is obviously for some people going to be a lot more nerve-wracking and stressful. But my best advice to avoid getting those nervous feelings is to picture yourself in the 1v1 map that you just played. Picture yourself in these winning scenarios and remember what you did to win those fights. Also, another way not to get nervous is just having an overall plan for your game. So for example, I would pick my drop spot, my loot route, what loadout I prefer, and after I get set up, having the map knowledge to know where I want to rotate to even have more success. Because when you don't have a plan, you're going to end up making decisions on the fly that could end up getting you killed. So make sure that when you guys are hopping into ranked, always just have a plan before you get in game. And now we're actually going to break down a 16 kill Unreal ranked win, and I'm going to be showing all of you guys how I implement all of these fundamentals into my game. Also, if you guys are enjoying this content so far, go check out my community. It is free. In this community, you could have the chance of 1v1ing me. Also, I shout out people every single day. Here's today's. So if this does interest you, go to the link in the description. Go check it out, and let's get back into the video. Alright, so first up, we're going to talk about off-spawn and having a plan. Now, in this example, I'm obviously landing at the raft, as you can see. But I have the same plan every game, right? I always want to hit low on the ground so that I can glide in early. And I always land at this tower on the corner of the raft because, in my opinion, it's the best spot to set you up. But this could go for any other location. You always have a drop spot in mind, but you obviously need to know your loot route. So for the raft, I have the same loot route every game. I drop down to this tower here. Once I get to the tower, I try and grab a gun and I look over to see if I can pick up any kills. If that doesn't work out, I go down here and then I get these chests here. There is another god chest here. I know where all the god chest spawns in this place is as well. That's a good thing to always have in the back of your head. Also, I know that I can always get guaranteed shield here because there's barrels, and then I can head over this direction to get even more loot from this god chest here. Also, another thing, off spawn, having the patience to know when it's time to fight and when it's not. In this example, this guy pauses, so I know that he's going to look over at me. See, he looks over at me right there. He starts to look at me. So I know I can't just start shooting at him. So I kind of just wait for an opportunity. Once they start running around, I hear him drop into the sewers. I then know that he has nowhere to go because there is a sewer drain wall that blocks him from getting in. So I know he's trying to smack on it, and I'm able to jump in his box, get him weak, and I can just keep spraying in until I get that kill. But there's a big problem right after I get this kill. I'm weak, and this guy falls on my back. Again, we talked about having confidence in fights, right? This is very, very important. I'm going to do a very, very simple edit on this guy. Right when I see him pull out his pickaxe, I edit a window. See how he has his pickaxe out and he swings? That means that I can get a shot off before he does anything. So then I'm able to crack him. Once I do that, I replace the wall. I stay calm. Wait for him to make a mistake again. And then I am able to get a second shot and finish off that fight, even though I was super weak on health and didn't have an advantage. Also, you should always be taking fights on the edges of POIs. So let's say I'm at the raft. I want to stay on the edges of the prison so that I don't get third party. Because imagine you're in this area right here. You're always going to be being looked at from two different angles. One on the inside and one on the outside, right? So make sure that you guys are staying on the outside and then working your way in. That always means that you're going to be the one third partying. Also, in ranked, you're going to have the chance to learn how to box fight and build fight in weird scenarios where there's people around you. You have to think about different things when you're in game. You have to think about how many mats do I have? What material should I be using? How should I take an angle so I don't get hit? Like in this example here, I'm going to do a very, very simple box fight technique to basically block this guy off and pick up a free elimination. Now, I know he's in here, but notice how patient I play this. I take a good angle, start swinging on a wall. See, I'm still hugging the left of the wall. I steal it, and then I kind of just look around. Kind of just look at him and see what's happening. I claim a few things, put a cone down, and I'm just kind of playing slow. I'm kind of seeing what he's going to do, right? Place a roof above my head, so when I jump, I get blocked, so that's harder for him to see me. See how I'm just taking good peeks, though? I'm just playing slow, and I'm just kind of analyzing what's happening and what he's doing. I'm not playing fast, because if I just play fast, then I'm making a mistake. Now, a very, very simple mistake you guys can make in just jumping in a box without having claim on builds. But in this example, I see that this guy obviously doesn't have a wall right here, right? In between these two boxes. So I'm going to take advantage of that and counter him with this. So I'm going to make a wide edit, which normally would just give me a shot. But since I know there's not a wall there, I can literally just jump in and place the wall in front of him. That means that when he tries to shoot, he's going to get hit by the wall. See, he shoots, and he's too late, and it blocks him. And then I'm able to two-tap him. Once I have him weak, I can just spray him and kill him with barely taking any damage at all. Also, in-game fights allow you to practice movement that you wouldn't be able to get your hands on in creative. So in this fight here, I'm going to use the dashes from the ghost water, or whatever you want to call it, river Styx water. And I dash on this guy and change the angle, and I get some opening damage, and then I'm going to crack him again. But you're going to notice something very important. Look at the way I'm tracking him through walls. See how I mentioned it earlier? Look at the way my crosshair is. See how I'm always just looking at him? Right? I'm always have my crosshair on him so that when I do line up my crosshair to get a shot off, I'm always close and I can hit max shots, right? Look, 84, 63, right? I always hit good, clean shots because I keep my crosshair placed on the player. Also, you got to talk about the map, right? Having map knowledge is huge. I always know that if I want kills, I go into this area here, this big section right here, basically where the circle is almost, if you were to move it a little bit this way. This is the fighting zone right here. This is where you're going to see most of the lobby in middle game because everyone flocks to the center of the map because they know people are going to be there. But if you want to avoid really annoying fights, I recommend staying away from this area because if you stay in that area, you're going to end up fighting a lot of people and you're going to be shambles. But the best way to do this is, as I said with POIs, you work your way around the edge so that you don't have to deal with that. Because see how I worked my way around the edge of restored wheels and I'm able to find these two people finishing a fight and I'm able to just pick up an insane amount of loot. Look at all the loot back there and I get all this loot as well. Alright, so this next fight I want to talk about changing angles. Now, angle changing is probably the most effective way to always keep doing damage, and it also allows the person to not be able to heal. In this example, you're going to notice me change angles several times. So I see this guy's wall. Obviously, he's weak, right? So I'm trying to go for the wall. I try and dash in. Didn't work out. Then I'm going to change my angle right here, right? Try and smack on his floor so I can edit in. Doesn't work. Then I realize it's not worth it to go this way. Change the angle again up here. Then I try to go for this guy's wall in front of me again. See, I'm just keeping constant pressure, spraying on him. I change the angle again and again and again. Then I do a very, very simple throw a ramp in his box, and then I pre-piece to the left so that he might walk into this box. He does end up walking in, but he resets right in time. But then you're going to notice I realize he could just shoot me again. I edit up and then change the angle again. See, I'm just keeping constant pressure, and I'm obviously not allowing him to heal. And then by the time I get to him, I'm able to just take one shot and finish off that fight without allowing him to have any time to med. Also, another thing, the best players in the game thrive on the edge of zone, and they pick on the other people. Like in this example, I'm obviously chilling on the edge of zone, but I'm focusing on these two people over there. See them right there? They're both fighting, and I am able to pick up 2 free kills just by sitting on the edge of zone and picking on them. But this isn't just because of my positioning, it's just because of my map knowledge and knowing where the best spots on the map are to be. But now you may be saying to yourself, you're on the edge of zone, you're not in a good spot. If zone pulls max, then you're gonna have to rotate all the way here. But having map knowledge is key because I have a launch pad. So that means I can have a free rotate and I can just go back into zone wherever it pulls. And in this instant, it's actually gonna pull all the way here. So I would have a lot easier rotate going from this launch pad than, let's say, these people right here, which these two players are going to end up dying to zone. So make sure that you guys have map knowledge and zone priority before you even fight, because both these people make the mistake of fighting while zone is rotating, and they end up both just dying for no reason. Also, another thing, learning how to rotate and control zones properly. Now in this game, there's not that many people alive. You can see it's only me and 2 other people, but my goal here is to always force these two to fight. So I'm going to keep this guy on this side of zone so that he is forced to rotate into this guy. That means that they're going to have to clash at some point, and then I can just use my rotations and my skills to basically just pick up both kills for free. Also, notice how I take little breaks in between my rotate so that I can keep looking back at this guy so that he can't go onto my side of zone. See how I just stay here for a little bit and just wait to make sure that he goes to his side, and then once zone pulls, I then start to go. Then once both these players are in the same area, as you can see, they're both here. I can then simply just spray them, and then I can just pick up a free kill here. Now when you're in 1v1 situations, you have to notice the little things. Like when this guy taps a fizz, I know that I can now go up and take high ground because he is healing. And then I'm able to get that height advantage and push him back down. That gives me a huge advantage going into this fight, because then I have a mythic AUG, and I know I will win a balloon battle against this guy, right? I'm going to eventually just quad dink him, so he's super weak, right? And then I can just spray him basically and force him down into the ground. At this point, I'm just applying pressure, but I realize zone's pulling max, right? It's pulling all the way here, and I know we're both on high layers, but I don't want to be on a high layer anymore, because if I get down first, I can get up in front early so that I can shoot him in the back. Notice my zone priority. I tap my fizz and I go before him. See how he just falls down and he starts to med? That's a huge mistake, right? And then I'm able to literally just spray him from my better positioning, and then I can just pick up a free win. Alright, so that's going to do it for this video. If you guys did enjoy, make sure that you guys are subscribed. And if you guys did like this content, go check out my community. It's free. You'll have the chance to 1v1 me, and you'll even have the chance for me to VOD review. So if this does interest you, go and check it out. And go check out these videos right here. And I'm out. Peace.